Yeah, Passover is going to be especially challenging this year. You know, the word we have for our celebration is Seder. Seder in Hebrew literally means order, because there is an order to the ceremony. There's 14 stages to the ceremony, 14 steps that move us through the entire Haggadah, the book for the night that tells the story and invite us really into partaking. It's like putting ourselves into, I was going to say the shoes, but really the sandals of our ancestors. In Israel, the word Seder is actually still commonly used. When you ask somebody, how are you doing? They say, oh, Beseder. Beseder, I'm okay, I'm good, I'm all right. You know, it's like saying, everything's in order. Beseder, Beseder, how are you doing? Beseder, Beseder. But this year we're not Beseder. This year none of us is Beseder. This year, I think the bitter herbs of our affliction, as they appear on the Seder plate, the bitter herbs of our affliction, the salt water of our tears, are connecting us differently to the ceremony, will connect us differently to the ceremony. There is no doubt. No doubt that this year will connect through the countless generations of Jews who witnessed and suffered in their lifetime the agony of pogroms and massacres. But this year for us, we thought we'd never get there. This was an impossibility. But this year it's no longer a page in a book of ancient history. This year, unfortunately, is as real as the horrendous live broadcast and gloating of the Hamas murderer of October 7. This year, we witnessed the greatest tragedy befalling our people since the Holocaust, the worst pogrom since the Shoah. I understand. We saw it with our own eyes. And I couldn't help listening to the bragging voices of the perpetrators echoing that of the Cossacks or all others who had come for us to our towns and villages, our shtetls, in Spain, in Poland, in Ukraine, Belarus, everywhere we've been. And then I can't help it but tie the story of the Exodus to our story here in America. And you know the story. You know that when we came to Egypt, when we came down to Egypt, for us, for Jacob and his sons, it was a promised land. If you remember the story, there was famine in the land of Canaan. And through Joseph, we were able to come down to Egypt. Joseph, who had risen to second in power in the court of Pharaoh, got for us a piece of land where we could survive. And not only did we come to this new land, to this promised land, like our ancestors who fled, those of you who are taking the course on the history of Zionism, you know that all of our families came from persecution, from those massacres, from the same pogroms that we witnessed on October 7th. The same Jewish experience. Your parents, great-grandparents came to this land running away from what we witnessed on October 7th. The same experience brought your family, your ancestors to this land that for them 100 years ago was a promised land. And I can help look at our story as we're going to retell it Monday night and Tuesday night. And the story tells us there arose in Egypt a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. where we had come to when we had come to Egypt, not just to survive, but thrived. I mean, look at the Jewish community of this past 100 years. And not every generation had it easy in America either. But at this point, we felt that we were safe, that we could rest, that we here, for once, after 2,000 years, we had found a land that was different. And there arose in America the Pharaoh of anti-Semitism once again. And here we find ourselves. Some of us thinking, how long do we still have before we too have to leave once again? And for where? And what I felt, and I'm just going to speak for myself, but what I have felt since I came back in January is that the America we knew as Jews no longer exists. It's not the same for us. It's just not the same. And though we might not care or want to admit it to ourselves, I feel personally that this pain, this anger sometimes, this deep sadness that I feel, and maybe you feel too, is because we've been grieving. We've been grieving what no longer is. And even if things get better, which I don't know if they will, it still won't be the same as before October 7th. It just won't be the same. There's a Pandora box that was opened for us. And I'm concerned about us. I am. I know I've shared that before. Because the Pharaoh of anti-Semitism, we were convinced, had forever passed over our house here in America. He's right back. He's right here. And just as it happened merely 100 years ago, we see in our midst the rise of both the neo-fascist, extreme right, white supremacists, and on the other side of the political spectrum, the extreme neo-Marxist ideology. And it just reminds us of Germany 100 years ago. I can't help just read history all over again. And neo-fascist, neo-Marxist, the word neo just means new, but it's the same in a different kind of clothing. The neo-Marxists have replaced class struggle with race struggle, but it's the same ideology underneath it. And so we hear once again all of those slogans on the streets, Jews will not replace us, on one side, and this week we heard on the side of the extreme left calls death to Israel, death to America. Our neighbors, our friends, our people we thought we knew. On the right, we have conspiracy theories of Jewish space lasers, in the hall of Congress. And just also this week, conspiracy theory on the left that the Jews are behind the push to ban TikTok. I'm not kidding. So what do we do? I think we must let the grieving process take its course. You can't skip grieving. You have to let it move through you. We have to acknowledge that our world has changed here in America. We also have to come together and be united as a community, because we find strength in each other. We can comfort each other. We can heal each other. We can commiserate. We can share, what are you afraid of? What's keeping you up at night? What are your challenges? What are you seeing? Because we're seeing the same thing. And we can be a mirror of empathy and compassion for each other. Community in these days is most important. To find solidarity, to find shared common ground. We can find resilience in each other, in this shared experience. And sure, we'll still continue to be allies to others, to embrace the causes that truly matter beyond our community's concerns. Absolutely, we're never going to back down from that. But that cannot really be our priority right now. Right now, we are the cause we need to embrace. We're so good at looking out for others and participating in their struggle, and we want to always be there for them. But this time it's a little bit different. This time we have to prioritize, and we have to prioritize ourselves, not to abandon the struggles that others are having and to still be in support of them, but our priority should be to ourselves. We need to embrace and stand for our kids who are in schools, who are in colleges, and are feeling increasingly alienated and scared every day. We need to stand up for our kids, for our children, to tell them that it's just I don't know. Right now it's a minority. It's not the reality. It's not the whole truth. And it's a very loud minority. It's very scary. But we need to stand behind our children. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps we need to dismantle and rebuild DEI to actually make it what it was supposed to be. I feel sometimes that it lost its way. It's an incredible shift in consciousness that it is inviting all of us. But I think as an institution, it has lost its way. As a movement, it has lost its way. I believe in DEI, and I believe we need to rebuild it from the ground. So maybe we can do that. Maybe that could be something that we can work towards. We need to reclaim the principles of pluralism, of tolerance, of inclusion. We need to try and stop the hatred, or at least expose it. I think most of all, it's time for us to really reject the false narrative that we are divided. Because I don't think that's true, and I think that it serves to strengthen the extremes at the expense of overwhelmingly most of us who are capable of living with our neighbors in honest and authentic and friendly ways. I believe the overwhelming majority of Americans are full of compassion and love and embrace of each other. But I think there is, maybe because of our polarized media, we've bought into a narrative that doesn't actually need to be what we say is true. We can decide it's not true and work on changing the narrative of our nation. Most of all, I think, whether it's on the left or on the right, it doesn't really matter. I'm not talking in political ways. I think what's very dangerous for us, and we know that from history, is the proliferation of conspiracy theories. We know as Jews that when a nation is captured on all sides of the political spectrum by this wave of conspiracy theories, we are in danger. Because anti-Semitism at its core is a conspiracy theory. It's not based on reality, but it's a conspiracy theory. So maybe that's what we can do. We can take those steps, but mostly we can be in community with each other. We can show up for each other. We can open conversations. We can listen to each other's fears and concerns, anxieties, and mostly stand with our kids right now. That's really what I'm seeing is most needed. What inspires me in our text, and maybe what drives me to share this with you tonight, is a beautiful teaching by Rabbi Hillel, who 2,000 years ago shared the words that we've actually made into a song. What page is it on? Page 22. So turn to page 22. At the bottom of the page, from Pirkei Avot, from Ethics of the Father, Im ein ani li mi li, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני, ואם לא עכשיו אימתי. And I think it's relevant to our time and to today. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? Right? We have to start with us. We have to start with our community. But if I'm only for myself, who am I? Right? It's not like we cannot stop from being of support to others. But it has to be in this kind of order. And if not now, then when? Because now is the only time. Im ein ani li.